Well, good morning everyone. Today I'm going to do an interview with RSPB volunteer Steve Rose. So let's get to it. Well, hi Steve, it's great to have you here today. I've got a list of 10 questions, like I said, and if you'd please give us an insight into Bempton. So, first question is, can you tell us a little bit about RSP Bempton?
Yes, hi Steve, nice to see you again. Unfortunately COVID has interfered with our chats on the reserve, but yeah, the reserve. My role on the reserve, I'm a guided walk leader. I also interact with the public on the viewing platforms, outlining what can be seen or what I'm looking at through a scope, and in normal times letting the public look through the scope, particularly at puffins or chicks or anything of interest. And also I like to walk around the reserve as well on the nature trail and looking at more diverse types of birds such as warblers and linnets and the varied wildlife that are on Bempton Cliffs.
And how long have you volunteered at RSPB Bempton?
I volunteered when I moved over into this area in September, as it happens, in 2016, so this is my 4th year. I think you get a puffin badge after 5 years, so we'll see if I get that. But yes, I volunteered as soon as we got over it. Well, in fact, I applied for a guided walk leader before I moved over, and then I just had an interview when I got here.
And what made you want to become a volunteer here?
Well, I've always had a deep interest in wildlife. I knew very little, funnily enough, about seabirds coming from 70 miles inland. And also I knew very little about the cetacean life and the seals and that were in the sea. So it was an opportunity to learn more about it, and as well I have been a guided walk leader for HF Holidays, taking guests on walks, and I got quite interested in explaining wildlife and things to see to the guests. So that prompted me to give everything here a really good shot.
What or who inspired you to get interested in nature?
It was school, as perhaps happens for most of us. I became interested in nature from a very early age due to one or two of my teachers noting that I was interested in the wildlife locally and the bird life. And I've expanded on that throughout my life, wherever it's taken me. Particularly fascination with snakes and that when I lived in South Africa.
Wow.
And coming across the odd leopard and crocodiles and that, so I saw a different side of wildlife where they saw me more as a prey than what I've got used to seeing since I came back from there. But yeah, I did like the wildlife to some extent in South Africa. So and this has all been through all my life, and as I say, at HF Holidays, I took guests out into the wilds of the Cheviots or into the Dales or into the Lake District, and very often they'd ask me what that was or this sound was, and it was nice to be able to tell them what it was.
And can you tell us what your favourite bird is here at Bempton?
Well, a lot of people like the puffins, and I do as well, but my very favourite is the gannet. An enormous bird that's here for much of the season, starts coming back in January as a male and doesn't leave while October, November. So they're here in fact they're here on the reserve longer than I am each year. So yeah, I have a great respect and admiration for the gannet.
And can you tell us about the work that is done here at RSPB Bempton?
Yes, not only is the reserve preserved for the seabird life we see, and the numbers are increasing each year, so the work that's done here obviously has an impact. But also where we sat here is a nature trail, and the copses of trees that run down to the sea have been planted for migrating birds coming over from Europe to use as the first place that they land is these lines of trees, and it's a migration route for them. They can rest and recuperate and feed before moving on to wherever in the country that they go to. So the RSPB do a lot for that. They encourage children, which after all are the future for wildlife, and all in all they seem to do a lot of outreaching into local villages, giving talks. So it isn't just about what we do here at Bempton, it's got a wider impact. So yeah, it's quite an expanding portfolio of work that they do.
Fantastic. And what does your role as a volunteer entail here at the reserve?
Well, my role it's quite varied actually. On the Mondays that I volunteer, I lead a guided walk, or did until COVID, and I also spent time on the viewing platform so that visitors, as I said earlier, can look at the wildlife that I've got through a telescope. I also volunteer for the RSPB on the Yorkshire Bell, which sails from Bridlington. Once a week it sails for the RSPB, and I volunteer either on the deck with the guests or as a commentator in the wheelhouse. Both roles give me a chance to also explain the types of diverse wildlife that they can expect to see on the cliffs and in the sea. We've seen basking sharks, we've seen sunfish, so it's nice to be able to say to the guests and the visitors that, you know, this is different to what you see on the land. I also do a beach bird survey once a year, which I do for the RSPB every February. I walk along a stretch of beach, generally from Milehaven, which is by Primrose Valley, to Reeton. It's about 3.5 miles there and back, just checking for beach birds, dead birds, and locating them and then filling in a report form. And I'm also a rapid response volunteer for any ecological disaster that can occur on the coast here from Flamborough down to Sea Life Centre at Scarborough. So I'm quite full on at times with the RSPB, but I enjoy every minute of it.
Fantastic. What else, if anything, do you do to do with nature? I.e., do you volunteer anywhere else, or do you do any writing about nature?
Well, Steve, I think I don't have much time to volunteer anywhere else, although sometimes when I've been down to Spurn I've had an inkling to have a go down there, but I'm quite happy with what I do here. But I do some writing. I do write for Filey Bay Today magazine once a month on my view across the bay, which takes in a view from the Bempton Cliffs all the way round to Filey Brig. Very grateful to Steve Verity Photography for supplying me with some of the quality photographs that illustrate what I've written about.
Yeah, and I've really enjoyed supplying them photographs. You've given me some good ones to think about. Can anyone become a volunteer at the Bempton Reserve?
Yes, you can. There's a variety of roles. You don't have to get out into the cold and wet and look at the sea or look in the trees for birds or wildlife. You can volunteer in the reserve shop, or the catering side of it, or on the welcome desk. The car parks always need people to direct them. the cars to safe parking areas. So anybody can volunteer if you've got an interest in nature. But you don't even, like I said, when I started, I didn't know anything about seabirds. Other than that, once a year they stole my chips. So yeah, anybody can be a volunteer.
And how would people go about becoming a volunteer?
In the first instance, just telephone the reserve where you're interested in volunteering here at Bempton. If you just telephone into the reserve, you can get the number from the website and speak to one of the managers here, or initially speak to whoever answers the phone. They'll put you on to a manager, then you come down, have a bit of an interview, then you can have a taste today and see how you feel volunteering, and you put with another volunteer. Then you'll have a week's induction, if you like, or it certainly was in my time anyway, as a beginner, and off you go. Then you get your uniform and you're released out into the wild, so to speak.
And what are the advantages of being a volunteer for RSPB?
Well, for me, I've really enjoyed interacting with people, getting to know people who've actually become friends now. I also like speaking to different people from all over the world at the reserve. I've had on the guided walks or on the cliff tops and spoke to people from many different parts. And we've all got one thing in common, and that is enjoyment of nature and what wildlife we can see. And for me, it's fulfilling. It really is. And one of the best memories I have was a little girl who was going back with her parents to Australia the following day, and she'd always wanted to see a puffin. And as it happened, I just had one in the telescope, and it was lovely to make her holiday for her. And I hope she still remembers that. But yes, it's fulfilling.
Well, Steve, that was very informative. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome,
You've
Steve. Yeah.
opened our eyes a lot about the reserve and what you do here. If you've all liked this vlog, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing, and if you do, please hit that little bell icon and you'll be notified of any upcoming videos or videos that I've recently uploaded. But yeah, again, thank you very much,
Very
Steve.
welcome, Steve. Nice to be meet up again.
Yeah, and hope we all get back to normal soon.
Exactly. Can't wait for it.
Well, that's it for me this week. Next week I'll be doing some more about nature. Until then, I'll see you soon. Bye for now. Bye.